Hey guys, happy Thursday, I think it is. Sorry, I lose track of the days since we haven't been in school. But like we have been doing, we are going to read another book today. And this book is also by our author in our author study, Helen Lester, and our illustrator is the same as well, Lynn Munsinger. So far we've read about a bunch of different animals, and all of our stories have been humorous or had some parts that were funny. Also, if you have realized some similarities between the covers and the illustrations, a lot of our stories that we have listened to or that we have read, you really have to pay close attention to the illustrations in order to understand what's going on in the story. So sometimes authors do that where in their writing, in the text, they don't always tell us what they want us to understand and what they want us to know, but they want us to look at the illustrations along with the words and kind of make meaning out of both of them. So today's story, you have to do that too. So not only do you have to listen better than Buddy, like in our second story, but you also have to really pay attention to the illustrations as I'm reading. So again, our story today is by Fountas Pinnell from our series, and today's story is called Princess Penelope's Parrot. And if you guys remember when we did poetry, there's something in this title that we learned about. Princess Penelope's Parrot. Anybody remember what that's called? When they have the same sound at the beginning? Okay, so in this story, we have Princess Penelope, and some things we know about princesses is that sometimes they can be a little spoiled. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you that Princess Penelope is pretty spoiled. Do you guys know what that means to be spoiled? How do you think someone that's spoiled might act? Would you think that you would want to be friends with someone who acts spoiled? I'll let you kind of decide as we read about Penelope. Let's look at that parrot. Why do you think the parrot is on top of her birthday cake? Well, actually, the parrot is one of her presents. But something happens in this story that kind of causes some trouble, like in all of our other stories. And I want you to think about that parrot. What do you know about parrots? There's something interesting about parrots that not all birds can do. You guys think of it? As we read, I want you to think about why that's important, okay? Princess Penelope's parrot. Also be thinking and looking for parts that are humorous as I read. Princess Penelope's birthday was always a big occasion, and this year was no exception. So already you can kind of see that Princess Penelope has a little bit of an attitude. Princess Penelope's dress had ruffles on its ruffles on its ruffles. Her presents were fabulous. Rollerblades studded with jewels. A bathing suit woven from rare peacock feathers. A 16-wheeler. Now, if you look really closely at Penelope, you might see she's probably younger than you guys, and she's getting all of these things just for her birthday. Pretty spoiled. The cake was 7 layers high and made with genuine llama's butter. The top of the cake was decorated with a golden cage. What do you think's in that golden cage? If you paid attention to the cover, you're going to know. Within that golden cage was a beautiful parrot. "Gimme," said Princess Penelope, her mouth stuffed with cake. "Gimme, gimme, gimme." Quickly, her servants stood one on top of the other, plucked the golden cage from the top of the cake, and presented it. Now let's think. She has servants. She's a little kid, and she has people that do everything for her. Now, as soon as she sees the parrot, she says, "Gimme, gimme, gimme." That seems to be a little bit similar to Gruntley in yesterday's story. How do you think she's acting similar to Gruntley? What are you thinking so far about Penelope? Do you think you would be friends with her? Do you think she's nice? Do you think she's a good character? Think about ways that this story is telling you that she's spoiled. "Mine," said the the princess. Mine, mine, mine. Dribbling cake crumbs, she zoomed off to her chamber with the cage. Then she waited for the parrot to say something. The parrot said nothing. Talk, Big Beak, demanded Princess Penelope. The parrot said nothing. Why do you think the parrot isn't talking? If you remember at the beginning of the story, I asked you what's different about parrots. Did you guys know that parrots usually talk? They usually repeat what their owners are saying. So why do you think this parrot isn't talking? I wonder if it has something to do with the way that Penelope is talking to him. Let's read to find out. Speak, or I'll rattle your cage. The parrot said nothing, and Princess Penelope grew annoyed. What does that mean? She's growing annoyed. What do you think that might look like? Or might sound like? Alrighty then. I'll put you on a ball and chain. The parrot looked miserable, but said nothing. Why do you think the parrot is looking miserable? How would you feel if you were the parrot? I know I wouldn't be very happy. Gritting her teeth, the princess hissed. Look, bird brain, I'm about ready to pluck your feathers out one by one. Still, the parrot said nothing. Furious, Princess Penelope marched right up to the cage, stared at the parrot nose to beak, and yelled, Why don't you just get lost then, knothead? How is Penelope treating her parrot? Do you think she's being kind to it? Why do you think Helen Lester, our author, isn't having the parrot talk here? Do you think she's doing that on purpose? I want you to think about why this parrot isn't talking. But the parrot did not get lost. It stood in silence, nibbling on the precious few bird seeds the princess flicked its way. So she's taking birdseed and flicking it, one by one, to the parrot. Princess Penelope glared at the parrot, snarling, Stupid buzzard! One day, Princess Penelope received a message that young Prince Percival would be stopping by her palace on his way to build sandcastles at the beach. So if there's one thing we know about princesses, we always know that they usually try to find a what? A prince. And now we see a prince is on his way. I wonder what might happen. Do you think the prince is going to like Princess Penelope? Let's see. Although they had never met before, Princess Penelope had long ago decided that she would marry Prince Percival when she grew up. He was the richest prince in the land. Not just a little rich, but rich, rich, rich. She could just picture herself as Mrs. Prince Percival. She'd have diamonds sparkling from every toe and finger, and a crown so heavy it would fold her ears. How would you describe Princess Penelope on this page? Let's think about all she's thinking about. What's a word we could use to describe her? I'll give you a hint. It's similar to Gruntley in yesterday's story. The most precious of silks would cloak her right up to her royal nose. Maybe her royal nose would have a golden nose ring. She would make hundreds of lists for her servants. Then she'd settle back on her velvet pillows to eat caviar cones and watch a 20-foot TV all day long. So are these really things that Princess Penelope is doing, or is she imagining them? And how can you tell? Do you think she'll get what she wants? How do you think the prince is going to react when he gets there? But enough dreaming. Now she must get ready to make a fine impression on the prince. She chose her poofiest dress, arranged a new hairstyle, and struggled into her highest heels. As she clippy-clopped about, tidying her room, leaving out only her most expensive toys, she came across the parrot. Stupid buzzard, she thought. Would the prince be impressed by this useless bird? Absolutely not. Never. So if you heard in that last sentence, she asked, would the prince be impressed by this useless bird? Why does Penelope think that the bird is useless? Think about what that word means, useless. It's not useful. It's an antonym of useful, useless. Why does she think the parrot is useless? And why is she trying to impress the prince? Now, if she thinks that the parrot is useless and she's trying to impress the prince, what do you think she might do with the parrot? And how do you think this might cause some trouble? So she hid the parrot behind the curtains. There. Now everything was perfect. Princess Penelope put on her sweetest smile, sat upon her throne, and waited to dazzle the prince. What do you think that means, to dazzle the prince? What is she trying to do? Galump, galump, galump. Princess Penelope put her hand to her ear. This must be her prince. Galump, galump, galump. She could just imagine him galloping up on his fine white horse. I want you to see if you can see with the parrot. Look really closely. Can you see where the parrot is hidden? Let's see if I can see him. I don't know. I want you to look really closely behind the curtain. See if anything sticks out that might look like a parrot's. It took me a minute to find him too. I want you to remember that. Galump, galump, galump. Prince Percival galloped into Princess Penelope's chamber. No horse, but impressive feet and nice shoes. Whoosh! Prince Percival bowed deeply and held out a huge bouquet of roses. Gimme, said the parrot from behind the curtain. Gimme, gimme, gimme. Prince Percival gulped and handed over the roses. What do you think's funny about this illustration? What's funny about that? And also, pay attention to this page. I'm going to reread this page. What do you notice that's interesting and different? Gimme, said the parrot from behind the curtain. Gimme, gimme, gimme. Prince Percival gulped and handed out the roses. What do you notice? And what's changing? Mine, squawked the parrot. Mine, mine, mine. Prince Percival's eyebrows twitched. How could someone with such a sweet smile say such rude things? Talk, Big Beak! The prince scratched his nose and thought that just maybe he wanted to be somewhere else. Why do you think the prince wants to be somewhere else? And who do you think the prince thinks is doing the talking? He thinks that Penelope is the one talking, but who's really talking? And how does the parrot know what to say? Do you think maybe the parrot has been listening all along? Then the parrot screamed, "Speak, or I'll rattle your cage!" Cage? Cage? Prince Percival felt trapped. As he moved toward the door, the parrot screeched on, "Alrighty then, I'll put you on a ball and chain. Look, bird brain, I'm about ready to pluck your feathers out one by one." That did it. Prince Percival bolted out the door and galloped off. Galump, galump, galump. Princess Penelope followed. Clippy-cloppy, 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 and the parrot flapped after them both, ball, chain, and all. Up and down staircases, past the birthday present room, and through the kitchen, they clumped and clippy-clopped and flapped. As Prince Percival finally galloped out the palace door into the safety of the green fields, the parrot called out, "Why don't you just get lost, knothead?" Prince Percival was delighted to do so, and didn't stop once until he'd made it all the way to the beach. In the palace doorway, the parrot cocked its head at Princess Penelope and cheerfully said, "Stupid buzzard!" Then it stepped out of the ball and chain and flew away. The prince and the parrot lived together happily ever after. Princess Penelope was horribly embarrassed, but she got over it, and in no time she went right to work in front of her mirror, practicing her sweetest smile, just in case the second richest prince in the land should come her way one day. The end. So this story's a little bit different because where all the other stories Helen Lester was trying to teach us a lesson, she did teach us a lesson in this, but Penelope, I don't really think understood what the lesson was, and I don't know that she really learned that lesson, because if you listened and you looked on that last page, she didn't seem very upset, right? She just said, "I'm okay, I'll just wait for the next richest." Now, the parrot and the prince lived happily ever after. So that's a little bit different than our normal fairy tales where the prince and the princess live happily ever after. So I want you to think about how this story is different from our other stories so far. And I want you to also think about how this is different than any fairy tale you might have heard or read before. And I do want you to think about the lesson that Helen Lester was trying to get us to learn, even if Penelope didn't really learn her lesson. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for our last book of the week.